What's good, YouTube? It's me, your boy Squid, back in another Squideo. Before you guys go ahead and invest money into the game, I want to talk to you guys about some products that are actually coming out, which may actually affect the metagame, and you may want to actually have funds or valuables to trade towards those cards should they actually become good. For example, we are actually getting the Valiant Smashers on November 17th in North America, so that's in about less than 10 days. We are actually going to get a new side set that doesn't really have a lot of competitive archetypes as much as the last one that contained, the Purelees, the Vanquished Souls, and all that. But instead, there is one archetype that is actually decently good in that one, and that's actually the Centurions, or rather, Centurions. For some reason, Konami seemed to have localized their name like that, but, hey, you can pronounce it how you want. But basically, the Centurions are a archetype that's decently good in the OCG. They're not top tier, and they're not tier 1 per se, but they are close to tier 2 at the very minimum, if not, tier 1.5. It just seems like not a lot of people are playing them. And how this deck functions is it's mostly a control-based / mid-range deck that is a synchro-based deck, which also revolves around their monsters actually being placed into the spells and trap zones. So a lot of their effects actually place themselves into the spell and trap zones. And while they're treated as a trap in the spell and trap zone, you can actually special summon them out during the main phase of either player's turn. Because they're a trap, you can actually use the effect both players' turn. And then they have a field spell that allows you to quick synchro during your opponent's turn. So long story short, off of one card, they're actually able to go into their main synchro monster, which allows them to draw a card, and then place everything back into the spell and trap zone to set up for their opponent's turn, which during their main phase, you can actually summon out all the monsters and make a Crimson Dragon, which then can tag out by targeting the level 12 synchro monster in engine, and then go into something like an Archfiend Calamities to lock out your opponent for the rest of the turn. So, more or less, this deck is decently good. It's a one-card combo deck that's a lot like Purely Zodiac, in my opinion. You're just going to your synchro plays and then trying to Calamity Lock and playing a bunch of hand traps. You could also play horror stuff in that deck as well. So that deck, I think, will be competitive. At the very minimum, it will be good enough to win a Regionals, do very well at Locos, and probably top a YCS, to be honest, all things considered. So that might be something that you guys may want to test out and play, and if so, then you might want to save some funds for that. And in a month's time, on December 8th, next, we are getting the Fire King structure deck. And this is a brand new revamped structure deck of the previous Fire Kings that we knew, like 10 years ago. But these cards are actually really, really powerful. In fact, the deck just won the YCS Japan Nagoya, which took place last weekend with over 4,000 players. Now, bear in mind, that was an event that only had best of one, because for some reason, Konami Japan really likes best of one formats in their YCSs. I don't know why, but don't ask me. So no side decking, best of ones. Really, really crazy to think about in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, but they did it, and Fire King turned out to win. Now, even outside of this tournament, Fire Kings have been doing recently pretty good in the OCG. They've been topping here and there. It's definitely a tier 1.5, if not tier 1 deck. In part as well, thanks to the fact that they have a one-card combo with the Sinful Spoils engine. Now, there is a new Baby Garunix who was originally featured on the Circle of the Fire Kings way back in the day. Yes, this has finally become a monster card, guys, and he happens to be a level 1 fire monster. I think they planned this. But anyways, the fact that they can be searched off of the original Sinful Spoil spell card means that playing the Devel Star engine is a no-brainer. And on top of that, we actually get the Populous Sinful Spoils card that's coming out in Phantom Nightmare in January, which boosts this deck even further. Now just with the one Bonfire card, which is a Rhoda for any level 4 or lower Pyro monster, which also happens to be coming out, I think, in January in a side set or some kind of set. Somebody told me that it's coming out, so I'm going to believe them. But anyways, this card allows you to add the Populous, which goes into the full Fire King combo by searching the Baby Garunix off of the original Sinful Spoils, and all of this is crazy, but you end up with a bunch of cards, a huge setup, and a way to go instantly into their XYZ Garunix, which blows up your opponent's entire board. And on top of that, you also get other negates and follow-up, which is absolutely insane that you can do all of this off of one monster. And the fact that when you start your play, all you have to have is Bonfire in your hand, and it doesn't even take your normal summon until you actually need the normal summon to happen at any point in the combo. So it's essentially a crazy extender, and the Dark Witch Devel Star engine just puts a crazy amount of extenders and consistency into this deck specifically, which is why I think Fire Kings will actually be very powerful in the TCG. Bear in mind that we do not actually have Max C, And this deck happens to have a lot of space for non-engine just because of the nature of the way the cards were written. You don't actually have to play a lot of Fire King cards. In fact, you play a minimum amount of engine, and in tandem with the Diabolic Star engine, you can still play upwards of 10 plus non-engine hand traps and or board breakers. So generally in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Large event, you know, having a lot of non-engine is crucial so that when you are going second, you lose a die roll, you have a way to defend yourself, and this deck happens to be able to do that. So I think this deck will be very, very powerful, and all you really need is 3 structure decks in addition, of course, to the Diabolic Star engine stuff, which will be the expensive stuff. So if you guys actually have the funds to pick up this engine, that would be a good choice. So then when the structure deck comes out, you know, you just pick up 3 structure decks and then you're off to the races, you're able to play. And then when Phantom Nightmare comes out in January, that's when the deck will be really good and likely tier 1 at that point, if not the best deck. Now, after that happens, in Phantom Nightmare, there are some other cards that will be slightly impactful in the metagame. I think it'll be a lot less impactful compared to Agov itself. And there are rumors that we might actually get a new TCG exclusive archetype in that set. So we could kind of look forward to that as well. I'm not saying it'll be immediately playable, but it might be decently good after the following set, after Phantom Nightmare. And then on top of all of that, of course, a quick mention is that Banlist is coming out in January, right, guys? The Banlist came out the tail end of September, which means October, November, December, 3 months, generally 3 to 4 months is the lifespan of a Banlist. So I would expect a new Banlist to come out in tandem with Phantom Nightmare at some point in January to coincide with that release. And then from there, they might start hitting the consistency of existing decks like Tearlaments and Rescue Ace, maybe Purely, and that's when decks like Fire King, the newer decks that will not actually be hit, will especially thrive in an environment where everything's all watered down. Long story short, I think there are some high impact cards coming out that will affect the metagame. We're kind of in a lull, weird minigame state that I think the metagame can shift a lot more based on these products that are being released. So yeah, I thought I'd make this video just to warn you guys about the products that are coming out. I know a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players just kind of like laser focus on the current metagame and what's good, you know, day by day instead of looking to the future, but it turns out that the metagame will be shifting at a very fast rate with these products being released. So I thought I'd warn you guys. Anyways, if I missed anything, let us know in the comments below if there's anything else you guys think will impact the metagame. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.